Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben's award-winning podcast, as voted by Grow Your Own magazine and by my followers and listeners. So if you're new to the podcast, make sure you click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all our podcasts, listen back to all our previous episodes, sit back, grab a brew and let's enjoy today's episode. Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben. Well, we're back on as podcast. It's now Thursday. I just had to think then because it's Wednesday when I'm filming it. And we are definitely nearer the weekend now. And today, obviously being Wednesday, I've been implementing what my last podcast was. I was sharing my produce and I had a massive bag full of apples and I took them into work to share with the other work colleagues. So it's always good to share your produce with other people and people will love it. They'll love the fresh taste of fresh fruit and fresh vegetables, and obviously it helps build relationships as well with other people, and people talk to you about what you do and what you enjoy, so it's always a good talking point as well. So that is one of the reasons why you should grow to share. So if you've not listened to my previous episode, make sure you tune in and have a little listen to it. It's only a short one, as per usual. They're only about 10-15 minutes long. My podcast's nice and short and quick for you to digest. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about an allotment diary. Yes, you heard it right, an allotment diary. Yesterday we were talking about planning, and today we are going to talk about keeping an allotment diary. Now, when I first started up Gardening with Ben, it wasn't called Gardening with Ben, it was called The Yorkshire Gardener, and I just started a Facebook page where I could keep a log of everything what I was doing, when I was planting it, where I planted it, how I planted it, how it turned out, photos of what my plot is looking like, and what I've been up to down at the plot. Personally, it was just a blog for myself. It wasn't for other people. It was just so that I could look back the next year and see what I'd grown, how it had grown, and if it had grown well. And that's the only reason why this page ever started off, and since then it absolutely blew to pieces. But my point being is that you do need to keep a diary. If not a Facebook page, just get a gardening manual, which you can buy off Amazon. I'll put the link in the description of some good ones what you can purchase. And what you need to be doing is when you're planting your seeds, just make a note in your diary of when you've planted them. And then next year, if they've done well from when you planted them, you will know that you can plant them at the same time the year after. And obviously make a note of where you've grown it in your allotment, because sometimes you forget where you plant stuff, and usually the year after you don't want to be planting where you have planted the previous time, because you're meant to move things around in the plot and grow it in different places. And also it's good to make a note of the variety that you are growing, or the brand you are growing, because if it does well, you'll want to grow it again. And it might not necessarily grow well the year after, you might have just had some luck, but it's always good to make a note of what has grown well in the allotment. And I always keep a log of everything that I do, because if I found something that I do like and that I've enjoyed growing, and it's been easy to grow, because I always like to grow stuff what's nice and easy, nothing too complicated. I like to know what I have grown well, because I tend to stick to the same varieties what I do grow, and if it does grow well, I'll definitely grow it again the year after, because I know I've had success with it. And if it tasted delicious, it's just about making notes for yourself, and because you can't remember everything, and if you've got a diary, you can just flick back, check it out and see how it got on. So if you're not making an allotment diary, go out and purchase one or order one online from the link that I've put in the description and get yourself one ordered and then start it in January. It's also good to write down all the tasks, what you need to do in the garden and in the allotment, and make a note of the jobs what you need to get done. And it helps you because you know that you've got to do them. Until you've ticked them off, they're still there to be done. So that is one thing that you should be doing, and I'd highly recommend getting an allotment diary, even if it's just to make notes like, oh, we've had bad frost, because then you know when the chance of frost has passed and stuff like that, or if it's been warm. And if a friend says, oh, what variety have you grown, you can just look back and see how well it's grown, because you don't want to be keeping loads of seed packets to look back on. You'll lose them, or they'll get messy, or they'll just disintegrate. But yeah, I highly recommend getting a diary and making a note of everything that you grow and where you have grown it, how you've grown it, and how well it did. So it's been a nice short sweet episode today, talking about getting an allotment diary and joining in, starting one. If you're a male, you can still make a diary. It's not just for women, it's for everybody. And I know a lot of people that make an allotment diary because it really does help them out. I'm also looking at making my own brand one, which I might publish next year for the year after, so watch this space. So I hope you all have enjoyed this short little episode, and as always, remember, keep smiling and keep gardening. So thank you for listening to today's episode of Gardening with Ben. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Remember to do click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all our podcasts. Feel free to share them on your Instagram stories so that it spreads the word about my podcast and we get lots more listeners. Feel free to check out my social media sites, Facebook and Instagram as well, Gardening with Ben, and also my YouTube channel, to stay up to date with all my handy videos, how-to videos, and sharing my tips and advice. And feel free to check the link as well in the description for my Gardening with Ben t-shirts. Lots of funny gardening design t-shirts in there for you to purchase at great prices too. So thanks again, and as always, remember, keep smiling and keep gardening.